But like, I'll do just about anything, even if it sounds a little wackadoodle and getting choked out, if it's going to help me get past my shit.
Hello and welcome to The Secret of My Success, where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. I am your host, Erin Currin. On today's episode, I am speaking with Colleen McCann. Colleen is an energy healer, and she is the author of From Sensitive to Badass, an empath's guide to magic-filled life. Colleen is on a mission to help fellow sensitive women reclaim our magic and understand the superpowers of our sensitivities. I hope you enjoy the episode. Please be sure to like and subscribe.
Awesome.
Fantastic. So today I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Colleen. Colleen, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited.
I don't even remember how many years ago we met, but it has been a minute. We met in the high desert of California, right?
I think it was 2008, later in 2008.
2008, 2009, something like that. Yeah. It's been a minute. And it was at Enlightenment
Warrior Camp.
Enlightenment Warrior Training Camp. Yes.
I like to call it Get Past Your Shit Camp.
There was a lot of shit to be gotten past.
Woo! Yeah. Remember going into that thinking, okay, as long as there's nothing with heights and nothing with walking on fire.
Uh-huh. And how did that go?
Well, you were there. Ooh! But those two things ended up being, amazing. I mean, I burned the hell out of one of my feet because a few coals got caught. Because at the end of the walk, you rub your feet real quick on some grass, and one of my feet was unscathed completely, and the other one had some blisters. But at least the very next day, we went on we had that big hike challenge. And so I was doing that on my blisters. But that was amazing too.
Yeah, we also did a ropes course where we had climbed telephone poles, and there was that trust exercise where the two wires separate from each other and you're holding on until you can't hold on anymore.
I have a great picture of that with me and my husband way up there. Yeah. And I still crave that sometimes. Will I will I purposefully find a ropes course to go do? No. However, when I think back to that, that was really empowering. Like enlightened warrior making, if you will.
Seriously, as insane as some of the exercises that we did were.
Like where you and I connected, perhaps?
Yes, because I don't remember exactly how the exercise went, but there was an exercise where we were supposed to choke the other one out. And for some reason, I wasn't cooperating and just wouldn't pass out.
I can still see your face when I was choking you, and like, I don't like anybody to touch my throat, like ever. So that was quite the exercise. What I remember is one of the instructors coming up, like as you would, I'll just say for me, you're choking me. And there was a reason for this. But as I was like starting to go, he's like, come back here or something like that. It's like, ooh, okay. And it's like, oh, I don't have to pass out. Oh, okay. I'm just doing it. Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of like life, right? I mean, it's like, you kind of think like, oh, well, that's just how it happens. But, oh, we have a lot more power than we're led to believe.
Exactly.
That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yep. I kept getting corrected for dropping into my meditation, my Buddhist practice, because I wasn't really being with the exercises of confronting the fear and the emotion and the whatever. And it's not like I was a meditator that was really dropped into my center. I was basically a chicken shit hiding behind my walls.
Oh.
And Yeah, so the instructors had to step in a couple of times and like do it themselves because the people that were dealing the partners that I had in many of those exercises couldn't get past that Teflon exterior that I've created. So
Wow. Well, well, I don't really feel bad, but I feel a little bit bad that I don't remember that that was your experience. Because I was pretty into my own experience of being choked out and then having to do it to somebody else. Man,
yeah,
and those guys, they looked like fucking hardcore, just super hardened criminals,
yeah.
like that were leading that. And then I remember later going into like the lunchroom, and they'd have like, I remember one of the blonde guys, I don't remember any of their names, but one of these hardened criminals that they clearly trucked in from a prison. He was like, he had his like cute little glasses on, and he was getting his food, and he was just super friendly. It's like,
I actually am still connected with Aaron Huey on Facebook, and he is running the Enlightened Warrior Training Camps still.
I don't remember which one he was. He wasn't the
He's
blonde.
the bald one with the goatee.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if he was like the head guy at the time back then, but I remember he was on the team. He's like, yeah, we connected through Facebook, and I sort of follow him because he works a lot with youth.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, we might as well have been at one of those camps that they send the bad kids to. Um, that's what it kind of felt like. But it really was empowering, but a little rough. Yeah, that particular process, yeah, it's the one I never know how to describe to people, but I think it was one of the possibly the heaviest hitting ones from, well, they were all good. I don't know why I'm trying to pick a best one. Um, but you know what? I really remember getting to Warrior Camp, and I remember they had asked, like, "Oh, do you want to be in the married cabins?" And I was thinking, "Oh, yeah, because that means we get our own." Can you say bunk beds?
hmm
Man, yeah. And it was one of those seminars where, like, every minute is accounted for.
yeah.
And it wasn't till the very end that I realized, like, as we were literally packing up to leave, at the end of those 5 days or whatever, and noticing there was a TV in the room. It was like, wow, it was there the whole time. And usually it would have been my friend. Um, yeah, what an interesting experience. Yeah, I really appreciate T. Harbecker. She's been,
Those camps certainly made a difference. But yeah, I remember the dorm room. They were dorm rooms, and they were dirty and dusty and bunk
and
beddy and
one shower for like six couples or something, and so you had
yep.
to like work it out. Like, oh my god, yeah. I was just a young I was almost going to say young lad. I was also a young lass of maybe 41, 42 at that point. So I could handle it better. Now at 58 and a half, no thank you. I'm glad I did it then.
Me
Nice.
too. Me too.
But like, I'll do just about anything, even if it sounds a little wackadoodle and getting choked out, if it's going to help me get past my shit. Because I've been looking for peace my whole life. And back then I was looking for two things mostly: peace, inner peace, please, 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 and some kind of relief or solution for my, as I like to say, crippling hyperhidrosis, meaning sweaty hands that I'd had my entire life. Yeah. And that included some Scientology dabbling too. But
Yeah.
yeah.
How did that go?
Well, I got some great things. I mean, we could fill this whole time up with stories about Scientology. And the thing is, I'm grateful for there are certain processes that led me to, well, TMI, but one thing was making peace with my vagina, Madam Hoo Hoo. That's not what I went into this for, but that was just kind of a happy side product or side effect of doing some crazy Hubbard processes. Um, yeah. Anyway, but Scientology, yeah. So what I like to say is there are certain things for which I am so grateful, and the the rest of Scientology can go fuck itself. Um, bleh.
That's an interesting thing to say when you made friends with your hoo-hoo and like you're talking about going and fucking yourself. So it kind of goes hand in hand, right?
Good one. Yeah. My husband and I felt like we were just a couple of crazy kids when we got together in our 40s. Both married to other people before that. Oopsie, fell in love. And we've been together now for 17 years. So we met at a seminar in Florida in Clearwater, the Scientology capital, the mothership, as I like to call it. And it was a class for helping chiropractors to get past their shit, so you can be more present. We could be more present with our patients and not be like wigging out, when they're telling us awful things. Yeah, and I don't even know where I was going with that. Scientology, met my husband through it. Yeah, sorry,
So let me
my
you
brain.
mind if you mind if I ask a question about that?
Please.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
cruise ship. Okay, yeah.
Pardon?
Oh, I know. I was trying to make my way back to the being on the Scientology on cruise ship off the coast of Venezuela. But what's your question?
Well, I was going to ask, so you went to a seminar for chiropractors in Clearwater,
Hmm.
right? Unrelated to Scientology, or
Yeah,
were you already?
it wasn't advertised as a Scientology thing, but every employee was a Scientologist, and it was all Hubbard technology that they were using.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And like you drank the Kool-Aid and decided to play for a little while?
Well, so ultimately, I ended up going to Clearwater, Florida, maybe like 18 times total, because I was learning a nutrition protocol using muscle testing. And as a result, so the doctor who was teaching it, he would often talk about a Scientology based thing called the Purification Rundown. And I guess L. Ron Hubbard created this ultimately to help people get sober, or I think originally alcohol, or I don't know about alcoholics, but drug addicts to get detoxed and
Mm.
get past their stuff and not be drug addicts. Yeah, and he would talk about it as a oil change for your cells. Yeah, and basically what it is you work your way up to about 4 hours a day in a sauna, and ultimately you're sweating out old radiation, um, old toxins of all kinds. And we were really intrigued because we heard story after story of people doing this, and over time, like I'm a painfully white girl, and I've been sunburned a million times in my life. I know you probably can't relate, and Irish and all. And over those, we did it for 30 days straight, at the org, which is the Scientology church. I don't know if you could see my air quotes. Yeah, and basically, yeah, different designs of bathing suits would emerge and then fade away. And then, and being a girl, I've had many different, styles of bathing suits. So maybe there's like this in the back or different straps, and they would emerge and then disappear. So it's like, wow, it just really showed me firsthand how much stuff we hold, including sunburns, radiation burns. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So as a result of signing up for the Purification Rundown, they're like, hey, if you pay a little bit more, you can do a Hubbard process or course. That's
Mm.
what they call them, courses. And so we're like, okay. And then we came to learn how controlling and creepy and money hungry they are. Yeah, I could go on and on about it. But as a result of doing that, we did this course. And as a result of that, they introduced that there's going to be this cruise. And all these people that we met at the org were going to be there. No one else showed up. And we, like a bunch of, just a couple of crazy kids flying without a net, we're like, okay. And so we went and met this cruise ship off the coast of Venezuela and toured the ABC Islands. And sat sweating on a cruise ship. Cruise ship. Yeah, I'll stop talking about it in a second. There's a lot of energy here still. Yeah, no locks on the doors, by the way. Yeah, we sat and did a course in a classroom, sweating in the middle of the Caribbean?
Mm-hmm.
Cruising past these islands, most of which I didn't even see because I was on a fucking cruise ship, studying a fucking L. Ron Hubbard book, Dianetics. And that man is verbose. Yeah. And he thought he was smarter than everyone else. Well, he kind of was. He was a science fiction writer who started a religion. Yeah. Anyway, I don't regret any of it because as a result, I got some great things out of it. But they were
Yeah.
trying to break me. And as soon as I realized they're trying to break me and they're horribly homophobic and you name it, we decided to say bye bye
Yeah.
to Scientology. So makes for some good stories.
Well, I think it's also a very interesting place to take a look because I personally don't think there are any throwaway experiences in life. Like
Oh yeah.
everything that we experience is designed for whatever our growth is. Because, like, if I heard correctly, you wouldn't have met Dave if it weren't for the course.
Oh, I have so much gratitude. That's what I say. Like I got so many things from it, but the rest
Hmm.
of it can go fuck itself. Um,
Well,
because I mean, I really feel for people. People get really hurt in Scientology, you know. Yeah, but people get really hurt in all religions, so why not Scientology? I'm just really happy. Well, anything. I'm a seeker. I know that's how we met, and I'll try just about anything for a bit. But ultimately, I'm not probably not going to be part of your organization forever, even if you're not like Scientology and I want you to go fuck yourself. I've been part of a lot of different things and I see them as stepping stones. Like,
mhm.
what is it called? I can't think of the name of the group, but it's a Scientology squirrel group, as Scientologists say, Landmark Education. That's a spinoff. That was a Scientologist who went and did their own thing. Yeah, at least what I was taught by Scientology. Have you done Landmark?
A lot, yeah. I did Landmark for about 10 years, met a lot of
Oh,
really amazing people there. And there's only so far the Landmark took me.
yeah.
From what I learned when I went and did gratitude after I finished Landmark, all of those got their start from a makeup company, because it was an MLM where they were trying to teach people how to sell and, to connect with friends and neighbors. And I think it was like in the 60s. And there was some sort of a Christmas campaign and, like, whatever. They created this training. It started working really well. People started creating personal breakthroughs. But then the MLM company went defunct, and a couple of the top salespeople from whatever this company was decided to go out and create their own training companies out of that. One of which was, why can I not remember his name right now? It'll come to me.
Well, then I don't feel so bad about.
Yeah, he it's like right there. Anyway, so this dude creates Landmark, and then somebody else goes and creates Gratitude, and there are a couple of other spin-offs. One of the things that I found fascinating is, like, I got a lot out of Landmark. Like, I got a
Oh,
ton out of Peak Potentials. Each of the processes that I went through shaved off or dug through different aspects. And, I just went and did Joe Dispenza last week. And it was funny because so many people are going, "Oh my God, that was so amazing. I awesome. And I'm like, I like feel much. But it's because I've worked through so many things because I've been doing personal development for
Yeah.
20 years that like after, when you dig down and experience it the first time, when you see the set of bones the first time, you're excited as all get out because it's new. But then when you dig down and you're looking at the same skeleton from a different angle, it's kind of like, well, yeah, I've seen that before. But now we're talking about nuance, and nuance isn't as much
Yeah.
fun for an Aquarius. It's like, fuck nuance. I just want bowl
Did you
and
say
china shop.
Aquarius?
Huh?
Did you say Aquarius?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I really need to cough really hard right now. Woo! Now I'm bright red. I don't know what's happening. Even though I look like an Oompa Loompa right now, I am too. I am also an Aquarian. Wow.
So what's in your throat chakra right now?
I don't know. Okay, well, natural color is starting to return.
Great.
Being a human is, well, as my husband Dave often says, it's hard to be cool sometimes. I'm not like a person, like ever. Yeah. Ooh. Okay, so what were we talking about before I started choking? Oh,
I
okay.
yeah, I made a comment about getting bored with things easily because I'm an Aquarius and you got
Oh
all
my God,
excited.
me too. Me too.
Yes.
Well, I wonder if you have this. Like when I discover something new, I'm not saying this is necessarily an Aquarian trait, but when I discover something new, I'm almost immediately irritated that everyone else hasn't caught up.
It depends on what it is. Because either I want to feel special because I discovered it or yeah. Do you want to say a little bit more about that? Like getting like nobody else gets it? Like you go, "Oh my god, this thing." And they go, "What do you mean? Why is that so exciting?"
Um, I don't know, but especially since I've been doing energy work. So I was a
Mm.
chiropractor, and then met my husband during all this Scientology crap, or great stuff mixed with crap, as most of life is. Yeah, I, Erin, I don't know what's happening with my throat. I know I've seen you talk to other people where the weed whacker is outside the window, so that's not happening. So let's just call this my weed whacker, like or leaf blower. Like what in the hell?
Is there well, we're talking throat chakra, right? It's
Yeah,
about expression, it's about honesty, it's about self-expression.
yeah, and well, God only knows where I was going a second ago, but oh, yeah, when I discover something, and okay, well, let's just say it's 2020, March 2020. We were all there, the beginning of the pandemic, right? 2020. and and I had a real big realization right around that time, which I feel like if we all chose to try this on and go with it, everyone's life would be better. And when people don't get it, I get a little frustrated. But I have to remember we're all each on our own paths. And what that was so basically I'm just going to read it. I have it on the front of I have this binder. It's my charts and stuff that I use in my energy work. And basically it says the universe is in a conspiracy for my happiness and the universe always has my back. And ultimately meaning if it's happening to me, it's happening for me or us. And yeah, there are no mistakes. And and it went from a yeah, I'm going to try that on. The universe 100% is a loving, organized, beautiful place. Like deciding on that and working from that, no matter what shows up. there is so much magic in it. And as an energy healer, uh, my big thing is I realized that there is magic, like pure magic. That's where the juice is when we get triggered, if you know what you're looking for. Because if it's happening to me, it's happening for me, even though it might feel like absolute, what's the technical term? Dog shit? Um, yeah, I don't expect your viewers to
Like,
understand that.
it could be dog shit or horse shit or bullshit.
You
Like,
pick your feces. You pick your feces. There's a feces for every species. You can quote me on that. I just made that up. Yeah. So basically, when the shit hits the fan, that's when I especially remember this. Like, okay, this thing is happening. This feels horrible. I'll give an example. Like, all of a sudden, so I'm an empath. And so I feel a lot of the time. It's not always even mine because I'm picking up, I think of us empaths or as sensitive people as having like extra feelers. And I'm very aware of my feelers because that's what I do for a living now is, do energy work. Um, yeah. And whew, when you can understand who you are and adopt I hold it as a belief that the universe is a kind and loving place, not chaotic and or disorganized. That's so. Why would anybody choose to believe that? I just don't understand. It's like a religion. Like, why would you pick something? Why would you choose to continue to believe something that doesn't suit you? That's not expansive. And anyway, yeah. So when the shit hits the fan, or like, okay, like, so I can be walking along and all of a sudden, like, oh shit, I feel like I can't breathe. I mean, obviously I still can, but it's that sensation of like, wow, I cannot breathe. And then like, ooh, now I'm feeling super panicked. Oh, fuck. Okay. What do I do? And, some people in that situation, um, well, to be super dramatic, might call 911,
hmm.
like, oh, fuck, I can't breathe. Like that's that could be a death sentence. But what I've trained myself to do is, okay, this is happening. I believe the universe is 100% on my side. If it's happening to me, it's happening for me. So what is the energy trying so desperately to get my attention?
Mm.
Making me want to cry, which is also part of my magic. um, and I think sometimes I tear up because I'm speaking a truth. You know, so what I've trained myself to do, instead of calling 911 or going into a huge panic, I'm like, okay, it's happening for me. So what I do is I use a pendulum. You can use muscle testing or, any way you have to get yes, no answers. And I sit my ass down because I'm a lady. I sit my ass down. I get out my pendulum and I start asking questions. I check in, like, do I have some stuck soul that hasn't moved on to the light with me and I'm feeling their stuff? Because that's happened a lot. Or is it some old past life, unhealed energy that needs to be
Mm.
cleaned up? And I would say 99, if not 100% of the time, when I check myself, I can get myself out of some gnarly situations
Mm.
in just a few minutes.
I think that's really powerful because what you're pointing to is our emotions are designed to be a guidance system under certain belief structures, right? Law of attraction being the specific case that I'm referring to, whether it's, Abraham Hicks or, Joe Dispenza or any of that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of complicated when you're experiencing other people's emotions, no?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's less complicated now that I have a system.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and talk about liberating. Like, life is so much less scary for me.
Yeah.
Because I know that any trigger or if I have any kind of physical symptom, I am my first stop. It has not always been that way. Um, But I think most of us are trained to like, oh, well, you go to that person because, you go to the doctor and you do what he or she says because they have the white coat. Ugh. Not that they don't have their purpose. If I break my arm, I am going to an MD. But just about anything else, I am my first stop. Plus, I'm married to a chiropractor and I'm a former chiropractor. So, um, yeah. I mean, I've had some gnarly things happen. Can I share another story?
Sure.
Yeah. So it was, I guess, probably a couple years ago now. I was about to work with a client on the phone. I do all of my work remotely now. Thank you, pandemic. Um, and because as an empath, like being around people, I love people just in small doses and when I choose to. And, I used to have clients, I'd work with clients in person, and that's great too. But it takes up a lot more of my energy. So now it's so great to just work with people on the phone or just by myself and I send a recording, which is really great.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I had about 5 minutes till I was going to work with a client. And I was in my living room because that's where my office chair is, my couch. And I got up and decided to uncharacteristically move my body some because I am quite, yeah, I'm a little too happy to just sit on my ass and think about things and play with energy and dream. Yeah, so I got up and we have this big pole, and I was just moving it, just standing there and just twisting my body gently from side to side, and all of a sudden my right hip made a sound that I've never heard before or since, and all I can say is it had the feeling of and the sound of that I would guess would be like breaking of giant pieces of cartilage. And of course there was pain. Yeah, so gratefully I had this big pole. My phone was nearby, so I grabbed my phone and with the pole carefully stepped over to the couch.
Wow.
I am a professional, so before I checked into it, this possible medical emergency, I contacted my client to say we're going to have to reschedule because I may have really hurt myself. And and then I got out my pendulum, um, and I started asking about it. And I first asked, okay, is this a medical emergency? No. Okay. This is energetic? Yep. Okay. Cool. And I started peeling apart. I have like I call this my master menu. And these are like the different processes that I use my pendulum to ask, like, okay, what needs to happen here? Like, is it a trapped emotion or is it a curse? Is it a negative portal I need sealed up? The list goes on. And so I peeled it apart and then felt calmer and was once again grateful to have that pole so I could get myself to the bathroom when I needed to. Um, anyway, and it was in the morning, so my husband wasn't going to be home for like 8 hours.
Mm.
And so, but I peeled it apart energetically and felt better. Dave got home that night and adjusted me, and I just kept working on it energetically. And of course, that first night I had to scoot up the stairs to go to bed on my butt. Um, but within, I believe it was 3 days, I was walking on it just fine. And I decided I'm kind of a weirdo. I think most of us cool people are. But anyway, us Aquarians maybe. But anyway, I stood in my shower while I was taking a shower and decided to test it by jumping up and down real hard.
Okay. How did that go?
Fine. Like it's felt fine ever since. This was years ago. So what happened in my right hip, I have no idea. But I was able to clean it up energetically mostly with some chiropractic as well.
So
There's some
I
magic.
don't know, but I don't know about YouTube guidelines or any of that stuff. We're going to go ahead and say, don't try this at home. Remember that Colleen was a trained chiropractor, married to a licensed trained chiropractor. So
He would not have advised me to jump in the shower, just so you know.
none of this is under the category of medical advice.
No.
And, I would say that I have similar experiences just from the perspective of, I think it's very important that we know our bodies. And I was talking had a meeting last night with several people who are not quite as far into the woo as I am. And they're talking about their medical conditions and how many times they go to doctors. And I'm not going to say anything bad about what they do, but, I'm like, I would never. I have my naturopath, that I call and I stick my tongue out and she tells me whether it's something or not. And she can tell me if I had ice cream last night or 3 days ago because, she's just that good. Your body doesn't lie. This morning when I was meditating, I had made a commitment when I came back from Joe Dispenza that I was going to meditate twice a day plus study a certain amount of time. So this morning is the third morning I'm going in to do this hour-long meditation to really set a structure, create a container for a future goal that I'm working on. And halfway through, when I started to get to the good part, all of a sudden my heart rate goes from 54 to 81.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've got a ring that tracks my vitals, and it's like I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I feel this thing and I'm like, wait, is this a thing? Do I need to call somebody?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, did a little muscle testing and that sort of a thing. But it's like, then when I checked the app for the ring, it was like 54, 55, 53, 52, 81. And I'm sitting, I had been meditating for 25 minutes at the time.
So not moving around excessively.
No, I wasn't moving. My body was the ring showed I was in REM sleep.
Whoa.
Yeah, because my body was like, I've been meditating for 9 months now based on the Joe Dispenza meditations. And so but of course I was having a few random thoughts about some of the stupid newsy kind of stuff I was watching on YouTube in a situation that's happening at the condo. And it kept trying to come in. And I think maybe after being in a bubble for a week, when I come back, it's kind of like, you do the fast for a week and now you get back and you start eating junk food again. Well, I guess emotionally and physically, I kind of did that to myself by watching the shit on YouTube. So I decided I'm not going to do that. But most people would have called the ambulance at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm not, no. But I think that really it's important to understand your own body so that you can know, because my dad drove himself to the hospital when he was 49 years old. He had some angina and he always took baking soda for heartburn. So he took baking soda because he thought that's what it was, and the baking soda didn't work. And the minute the baking soda didn't work, he knew it
Right.
was not normal. It's time to go. And it saved his life. So
Yeah.
just,
Everyone should understand their own bodies and take responsibility for your own health. That's where I
yes.
think that's where a lot of people, I'm trying to think of the right way to say it, fall short or, I don't want to say it, it's not an accusatorial way. You know what I mean, right? Like people really have a tendency to give give their power away to people who supposedly have the answers about their body, but these people oftentimes are, part of a system that's broken, dare I say, um, and run by drug companies. And drugs can be life saving, but drugs can also just mask the symptoms that your body is so desperately. They're clues. Symptoms are clues, and everything is energy.
Yeah.
So, I
Well, and
feel bad for people. It's like, oh, the drugs. Oh, let's make the drugs less expensive, and it's like, how many people are on drugs that they probably don't need, and drugs that are creating more drug need for
right.
other drugs to. Yeah.
So, well, and this is great because I was actually thinking earlier, you made the comment about, you were talking about how the universe is generally a friendly place. And that's something that's what Einstein said. He said one of the most important decisions you will ever make in your life is whether the universe is friendly or not,
Yeah.
because that drives how you behave in the space for the rest of your life. And you had asked, how is it that anybody could want to see the universe any other way? And the answer is because they don't want to be responsible. They don't want to have to do the work. I don't, like, you and I hadn't talked to each other in quite a while. There was a conversation that, Marcelo and I are divorced. There was a conversation we had after being married for about 10 years. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at him going, wait, back the truck up. Are you trying to tell me you think I'm bipolar? And he's like, well, yeah, because my friend who's a psychiatrist, he, you
Okay.
went to Argentina with me for a couple of weeks, and like he doesn't speak English and you don't speak Spanish, but he just decided that you were bipolar. He told me that's what's going on with you, and I'm like, really? And he and I talked about this, so if he happens to see this episode, he'll probably laugh a little bit, because he saw immediately how ridiculous it was. And I said, okay, so let me get this straight. I'm fully functioning, I have jobs, I'm paying rent, like my life is working, and you're trying to say I'm bipolar, but it's been 10 years and you never told me. One, do you really think that me being bipolar is the case? Because I must be highly functioning if that's true. And two, how come you never suggested I go see a doctor? And it was basically what I got, um, at that point in my life. If I got upset, I got really upset. It was not pretty to deal with. And so, I would say I'm probably not very nice to be around, especially if you're the person that is going to be in the
Receiving end.
direct line of fire. So at a certain point, he just decided that any of my upsets were because I had a medical, emotional, mental condition, and he didn't have to be responsible for how we
Whoa.
got there.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Wow.
easier that way. And if I never got drugs, then he never had to not be off the hook. And this is kind of an interesting example. He loved me, he wanted to stay married, and so this is like his way to preserve the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
um People will do crazy things when they don't want to look at what's really going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, I find a lot of people do not want to look at their stuff.
Yeah.
That's where the magic is. Like, yeah. I'm not going to say this right, so I probably shouldn't even start it. But here we go. It's like, most people are just kind of living the same life year after year. Like, they're just not really looking. There's such a better way to say it. Sorry. But there's just, when you're, well, okay, one of the great things I got from Scientology was they're all about confronting.
Mm.
And what I learned was, yes, somehow I didn't go into it looking for making peace with my vagina, but I did one of their wacky processes. And as a result, I made peace with a decision I made when I was 8. And, well, we've come this far. Might as well share some more TMI. It's all in my new book. Anyway, I was around 8 years old, and I was with a couple neighbor girls. One was my age, one was like maybe a year older. And it was a very simple little show and tell of the Hoo Hoos. And, and my friend, who was my age, told me that mine was weird. I don't remember the exact words. I would pay money to know what words, not a lot, but and like, what did she say to me? And I just made it fact. And so I think, more TMI, I was a little, let's just say Colleen has a lot of fun in the 80s and 90s, um, proving that mine was just fine. So kind of like, well, if he wants to have sex with me, then it must be okay. Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, so cleaning up that energy around Madame Hoo Hoo, magical. And then next thing you know, I meet my soon to be husband, even though I was married to somebody else. and I'd convinced myself that I was broken sexually.
Mm.
Um, yeah, yeah. So that just that one little thing as a kid really affected me for my whole life until so for about 31 years because I was 39 when I made peace with it. Um, and that was using some wackadoodle Hubbard process. Um, Somehow that happened, and I met my husband through it. So yeah,
It's really awesome.
yeah. So
You know, I think it's important.
oh, I know what I was going to say. Sorry. Um, is one of the other things that I confronted because of meeting Dave, my husband, is like how my former husband, my first husband, he and I, we were growing apart and ooh, confronting that like I don't want to have sex with him. So I made it so I convinced myself that there was something wrong with me sexually instead of just confronting the fact like wow there's something going on here and this is just a symptom. um, yeah, so that part was magic, and like I said the
Mm.
rest of Scientology can go fuck itself. um, yeah, anyway.
Yeah. I think that's thank you for sharing. Thank you for I mean, that's a really vulnerable thing to share.
Yeah, but when you start looking at the stuff that's not working and you have tools,
Mhm.
it's important to have some tools. uh, Look at your stuff like anything that comes up for me now.
Mhm.
Like, okay, so real life example from today as we were setting up the Zoom call or whatever Riverside call. Um, like, I thought I was prepared, and then I come to find out, oh no, I need to get Riverside and I need to do this, and then that's not working right. And I was just getting fucking wigged out and triggered. And
Mm.
And if I hadn't felt like I was in a hurry, because we had this appointment time to do this, what I would have done is get out my pendulum and start asking about the trigger because I truly believe magic is in our triggers, and
Mhm.
like what energy is in that experience we had of me not doing it right or feeling like I'm not doing it right. That's old shit. That's not because of so what? I had to like put Riverside on my computer and log into it and whatever, and here we are. So it wasn't really about that. It's accessing or triggering old energy in me that's
Mhm.
unhealed,
Mhm.
and our bodies, the universe, God, whatever, loves us so much that they're not going to leave. No lesson is left behind. So, so that lesson, that old energy, was popping up for me to look at. And if, like I said, if I would have had the time, I would have gotten out my pendulum and started asking questions. Is there something energetic bubbling up here in the form of this trigger? And more than likely, I would have gotten a yes. And then I would peel it apart and then feel just fine. I can always, pretty much always, depending on the subject matter, but like I can have a headache and start asking about the energy behind it.
Mm.
If I was given, let's just make it real serious. If I was given a cancer diagnosis,
Mm.
um, I'd be like, okay, just like a headache, what's the energy behind that? What has had to get to the point of cancer to get my attention? And a lot of people don't wake up, and start looking at their stuff until they have to get really hit on the head hard. Yeah.
That's true.
I'm trying to, uh, I have trained myself to get better and better and quicker at noticing the signs and signals around me or in my body, um, and get the tap from the universe instead of like the anvil falling on my head. So yeah.
Couple things. First of all, you mentioned your book. So the book is From Sensitive to Badass.
Mm-hmm. An empath's guide to a magic filled life.
Thank you. So we're definitely going to have a link so that people can check you out on social, and if they want to purchase your book, they can find it there. And a
Thanks.
lot of the stories that you share will be in that as well. The other thing I wanted to ask is how come you didn't make a request to take a minute and work with your pendulum after we did get you online?
That's a great question. All I can think of is like I have a weird relationship with time
Mm.
and like, okay, I know my time is involved here too, but this is your gig and you're doing this formal podcast and I get to be a guest. So yeah, like just not wanting to take up more time to do that.
Okay. And,
And
I get it. I totally get, because I know that me personally, when I'm triggered, that's the time I'm going to go into people pleasing, fawning, kind of making myself smaller, sort of like,
right.
ducking around and going, no, 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 it's okay. It's okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like that would be me personally.
Well, I kind of did that because I didn't want to take up more time. But that's what if in any other situation, if there wasn't another human, in this case you, if there wasn't another human around, I would have just, yeah, sit my ass down, get my pendulum out, and start asking questions, peel it apart, and feel better within moments.
Okay. Well, and you'll
So
be
I
able
think
to.
just for the sake of, I'm acting like you have this very finite amount of time. I don't know. This might be your only gig today. I don't know what your time is, but I made it like this is very important, and this has to happen first.
Well, I appreciate your honoring the
Yeah,
space.
being
It's
human is not the easiest thing in the world.
really.
Newsflash, in case you
I,
haven't
I
heard.
I hadn't noticed after spending 3 weeks in close quarters with two separate human beings, like
Ooh.
the introvert who lives alone with two cats.
Yeah. Do you value your time alone?
I yeah. When I was in Ireland for 2 weeks with one friend, it was great because we had separate bedrooms.
Mhm.
We had time apart. She worked her job. She had her office. I did my video. I had my little space. So we got to separate for a few hours every day. But the last week at Joe Dispenza was with a different friend. He's an extrovert. I'm an introvert. We shared a room. He wanted to be together all day, all the time. And I was just like,
Oh,
I'm sorry, I love you. And no, no. So,
and no.
no. So like Sunday, I didn't talk to anybody. I sat on the couch and I watched movies and I just, ooh.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, I love finding little corners. You've got to know who you are and what you need to be able to give yourself the space. I remember there was one time I went to Argentina with Marcelo. And we were like, he has hundreds of friends all over the place. And we're like going from barbecue to house to party to this to that. And we were walking from one to the other. And I stopped and I sat down on a bench. And he's like, what's the matter? And I'm like, I just need 10 minutes. We don't talk. We don't nothing. We just sit and breathe. And like, unless this is a bad neighborhood, I am not moving.
Right?
Like,
Hmm.
you got to know what you need. So, speaking of knowing what we need, we've been at this for not quite an hour, but yeah, I know time flies when you're having fun. It really
Flying,
does.
time, wow, I almost said flying ties. Time flies when you're, yeah, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to poof myself from what I was going to say. And that's my husband and I we have some code words that really help. And one of them is like if you're in the middle of saying something and you realize it's going nowhere or you just want to stop it, we say poof. And then also works as etch a sketch where you start over.
I
Anyways,
love
I'm going
that.
to poof what I was going to say.
Okay, great.
Two more
Fantastic.
proof myself.
So, we'll see if I poof that part of the conversation or include it in the final edit. It might just stay. Hope you don't mind.
Whatever. I do a live. I call it Magic Mondays on YouTube every Monday, and my only agenda is I promise my viewers to show up as a sensitive magic person. I show up no matter what, and so there are a lot of unslick episodes. So this is just how I am. So you keep in as much as you want.
Okay, cool. Great.
Just,
Like,
this is just me being a magic sensitive weirdo.
okay, cool. Well, does the magic sensitive weirdo want to leave our audience with anything in particular as we wrap up today's conversation?
Well, I would definitely say I want everyone to know, if you don't already, we are all so much more powerful than we are led to believe or taught. Um, and and I really do think me and my good friend Albert Einstein, uh, you know, choose. You just try it on, like play with it, even if you're like, oh well, I can't buy into the universe. So because I see all the shitty things happening in the world, and how could the universe possibly be a friendly, loving place? Um, but I would definitely recommend that you consider trying it on. You can always take off that idea and put on your old ideas again, but try it on that the universe is a lovely, loving, supportive place. And whatever gets your attention, like, so there's a distinction between seeing things in the world that you don't like. I hate poverty. I hate racism. I hate war, hunger, whatever. I hate all those things. But the thing is, there's a difference between disliking what I see and like it being so in my face and I'm just, ugh. Like I see people like that. An election is coming up. Woo! Talk about trigger season is coming up along with the holidays. Uh-oh. Yeah. And if you don't, like, if you can start seeing the world and your life through the lens of, yeah, I live in a pretty fucking magical place. And if something's really getting my attention, boy, there must be something juicy in me that needs to be looked at, handled. So it's no longer lurking in the background and I don't have to live my life through it every day.
Hmm.
And so if you have tools, which I offer in my book, at least the way I do it, um, yeah, life is very different and so much less scary.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
I think it's a great place to land. Thank you.
thank
All
you.
right, good. Well, I appreciate the heck out of you, and I
I
am thankful that
appreciate
you decided.
you for choking me all those years ago.
Not many people can say that.
No. And that is not something I find sexy. I hear people saying that a lot, of like being choked out, and whoa, that is not my thing. So sorry to tell you all these years later, Erin, you did not turn me on when you were choking me.
That's okay.
You're gonna have to live
I
with that.
I think I'll survive. Thank you, Colleen. I appreciate you, and thanks for playing with me today.
Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
You're welcome. All right, great. Everyone, until next time, we'll see you then. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Secret of My Success, where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling life. I am your host, Erin Currin. Until next time, enjoy the. I love it because it's like there are a couple of things that I leave in just for the authenticity of the experience.